Welcome to the Hodgy podcast with me, Lauren Strati. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope that you guys had a great Christmas and a great holiday season. I still feel like I'm recovering and I wish I could sleep for a week. I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling that way. Seems like this season was an interesting one for everybody. Lots of people were super busy. Lots of people were super sick. Just seems like it was a whole bunch of stuff. But overall, I think everybody had a good holiday. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said that even though everybody was sick off and on for like a month and a half, it really made them slow down, gave them time to just relax instead of going through all the craziness of the holiday season where you're extra stressed. We had the same thing with our family. We didn't do certain things we normally did. We normally do every year because I couldn't. I was too sick. We couldn't do certain things, or I wasn't able to partake in certain things. So things seemed a little less crazy this Christmas and this holiday season, but still enjoyable at the same time. So I hope that if you guys are dealing with any of that stuff, you still had a good Christmas and a happy New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. This is our first Therapy Thursday of 2025. So I figured with it being the new year, we would talk about New Year's resolutions. To resolution or to not resolution? That is the question that we'll be talking about today. But before we get started, I will ask you guys to please remember to review the podcast. Please give it a good review. If you plan on giving it like 1 star, then don't bother reviewing it, please. It's not helpful. But please give it a good review, subscribe to it, do the notifications, and share with your friends and family. It would mean the absolute world to me. I truly feel like others would really love this podcast as well. And I would like it to continue to grow this year. I know we're just getting started. So I'm very excited about what we have coming. Just if you can please do those things, I would be truly, truly, truly grateful. So now to business. I first want to start by saying when I talk about New Year's resolutions, so we know that it's typical. Somebody always asks what your New Year's resolution is, right? Do you have one? How's it going, etc.? And I want to talk about, should we do them? Should we not? Why a lot of them fail, and maybe what to do instead. But I want to make it abundantly clear that this episode is not to tell you to quit or that you're going to fail in whatever resolution that you come up with. It's actually to help you do the opposite of that, to help you succeed with whatever goals you have for 2025. A lot of people tend to think, okay, new year, new me, let's go balls out, balls to the wall, and do this thing. And I'm heading to the gym 6 days a week. We're not spending any more money. I'm cleaning the entire house. We're decluttering everything. I'm going to start running 3 miles a day, etc., etc., etc. And we set these goals not really realizing that they are quite challenging to do right off the bat. Like I just said, a lot of us had really busy holiday season, and we just need to give ourselves a moment before we jump into those things. So when I was doing this research for the podcast, I came across an article by Better Health talking about New Year's resolutions, and it was about how many common New Year's resolutions consist of challenging goals that are notoriously difficult to meet. For this reason, a high percentage of New Year's resolutions fail within the first week, months of the year, which I know we've all had those resolutions that for one reason or another, it didn't pan out. It didn't work. We realized, not happening. So it even said in a 2022 YouGov poll exploring New Year's resolutions, statistics found that more than
A third of Americans, so 37%, reported having a goal in mind for 2023. That number is probably higher. Most of us don't take polls like that, so it's probably higher. But the popular resolutions were, like I said, weight loss, getting more exercise, the desire to eat healthier. Similar polls showed that financial health was another goal for some people, with pledges to save more money, pay down debts, or get a new job. If you ever notice, like when you go to the gym, if you go to a gym in January, you might have guessed that there is a lot more people there. You might see a lot more people. There's a widespread desire at the beginning of the year for better health. In one study in 2016, New Year's resolutions, it found that on average, more than half, 55%, of New Year's resolutions are health related. I feel like that is one of the number one things a lot of people do in the new year is make a resolution for better health, especially after the holidays. That's what happens. We feel like we've overindulged, we snack too much, too many treats, etc., and we just want to feel better in the new year, so we set those typical resolutions. But you may have also noticed that your gym empties somewhat by spring, which aligns with findings that many struggle to maintain their New Year's changes and attempts to keep them long term. So you go, like I said, balls to the wall for the first week or so, and then it kind of fizzles out. Then one study found that 77% of resolutioners kept their pledge for 1 week, but only 19% had maintained their goal at the 2-year mark. It's a pretty small percentage. Why is that though? So I've already kind of touched on that a bit, but I feel like there's so much more to it. People sometimes set these goals to do something completely different immediately after a typically crazy time of year. Like I stated, so then there's a lot of people that fail at accomplishing their goals. And I think that there are a few different reasons why that is. One, like I mentioned, they are coming out of a really busy season. It's one that's typically filled with doing extra activities, spending more money, spending time with more family, which may be good, may be bad, just depends on the family. You guys might be traveling, sometimes dealing with sickness or 12, off and on. And a lot of places it's cold because it's winter. Now, so that doesn't really motivate one to want to do new things when it's cold and it's winter. So now after hearing all of those things listed, does any of those items sound like they're helpful or conducive for setting one up for success when they choose to completely change who they are or their habits as soon as the clock strikes midnight on January 1st? Not so much. So it makes a good amount of us want to just hibernate, right? Like after you spend, really, it feels like this year especially. Let me know if you felt this too. Because Thanksgiving felt so late. I literally felt like it went from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Like we had a week in between. That's how I felt. It just went shoo. And now we're in 2025. This year in particular seemed to go by super fast. Things were super busy and crazy for everybody. And it just seems like it was all smashed into like a week of crazy madness. And then it's the next year. So it just makes everybody exhausted. Nobody knows what the heck day it is, what year it is. Everybody's still trying to find their bearings after Thanksgiving, after Christmas, after New Year's. So setting some resolutions to suddenly start going to the gym every day, cutting out all of this food or stop spending money, etc., just seems kind of unrealistic, right? It just seems a little crazy to have this big crazy time and then make all these crazy changes when your mind and your brain and your body are just trying to breathe and gather itself back up, right? So it's a lot for your brain and your body, and a lot of times after the holiday season, it just isn't ready for all of that change. Really think about it though. Just look around most areas at this time of year, like nature. If you just take cues from nature, most of it's resting, right? The trees, there's no leaves. The trees are conserving energy. Animals are hibernating. The days are shorter. It's colder in most places. These are like signals for rest and reflection. It's only natural that humans feel a similar pull to just slow down, not go crazy and start all these crazy goals after everything from the 2024. It's a time to relax. And I feel like that's been made to seem like that's not okay. But winter is a time for physical and emotional restoration. And historically, that's what people did in the winter. Like many farming cultures, winter was a time of minimal work. Harvest was complete. The focus shifted to maintaining resources and staying warm. Then you have cultures worldwide that have been winter festivals like Yule and Lunar New Year that focus on renewal and not overexertion. It's more about reflecting on the past year and then making drastic changes. That's what winter is about. There's even Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. They both emphasize that winter is a yin season, a time for slowing down, nourishing the body, introspection, which contrasts with the intense yang energy of spring. So no, you're not crazy or a failure or lazy if you feel like January or the winter season just isn't the right time for you to make big or drastic changes and resolutions. I'm still recovering from this thing. So if you hear me sniffling and whatnot, it's because I'm talking and everything's like, nah. But like I said, you're not crazy and you're not lazy or a failure for not wanting to immediately jump up on January 1st and do all these new things. In fact, if you even want to go back further into history, when the literal months of the year were different and January didn't even exist. It didn't exist. So I found it mind-blowing, and yet it made total sense when it came to why it felt so much harder to start something new and big in the winter. Because originally, the Roman calendar, which was created by, you're going to get some history lesson here real quick. The Roman calendar originally was created by Romulus, the founder of Rome, and it had only 10 months. Not 12, 10. Starting in March. This aligned with the agricultural and military cycles, as spring was seen as a time of renewal and planting. Months like September, which was the 7th, sept for 7th, oct for 8th month, November 9th, December, or decade, 10th month. They reflect their original numerical order in this calendar. At this time, winter months were not accounted for in the calendar year. So like January and February, no necesito. They were not around. Then later the calendar evolved under Numa Pompilius, who added January and February to the end of the year to account for winter. January was named after Janus, the Roman god of beginnings and transitions. Even then, the new year continued to start in March. Not January, March. For many centuries, because it was tied to spring, which meant rebirth. And that's when everything started, because spring was a time of renewal and growth winter a time of rest. So if you've always kind of felt off with the start of the new year starting in the dead of winter, that's probably why. Because for years and years and years, it actually started in March. So you're not crazy. Then it wasn't until 153 BCE during the Roman Republic that January 1st officially became the start of the new year, largely to align with the consul's terms of office, which started on January 1st. I know I don't talk about politics on here. I refuse to do it. I don't talk about the government, but the government's literally changed the natural order of things to suit themselves. They literally said, no, I don't like the way that this has been for years. I don't care that it's the way that it goes with the seasons and it makes sense to nature, to God, to our bodies. It doesn't work out with my schedule. I don't like the way it goes with our officials' terms. And so they literally just changed it. So Julius Caesar introduced the Julian calendar in 45 BCE, which fixed the year at 365.25 days to align with the solar calendar. This calendar also kept January as the start of the year, but retained the historical names of the months. So I know you're like, what is this is to help you understand why. And I mean, maybe it's just me, but I feel like others that absolutely cannot stand winter and are literal homebodies for months. I feel like this, and they feel guilty for not starting all these New Year's resolutions or if they fail. I feel like this helps you understand why that is. It is not your fault. It's literally been in our DNA, and our bodies are more aligned with nature than what some government calendar says for us to do. So, but we'll get to, and I really think that this stuff is interesting because it's like, where does this all come from? Like, we're so used to things being the way they are, right? We're so used to there being the 12 months, and not like we can do it. I'm not saying like, oh, let's protest. No more January. No more February. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm simply trying to help you understand that you're not crazy and there's nothing wrong with you for feeling kind of funky during the winter season and feeling off, weird for not starting something brand new and out of your comfort zone in the dead of winter. And so I'm just trying to educate you guys more about that so you understand that you're not losing your minds. It's just things were changed to be a certain way. And yes, it is what it is. We're not going to get rid of the months. That's ridiculous to think. That's just, but at least you can know. You can know and you can explain to other people like, hey, it's not you. It's Julius Caesar. And it's that dang Romulus that did this, or well, he actually seemed okay. It was really like Caesar and whoever else in Roman times. Then later, it became clear that the Julian calendar required additional changes due to the miscalculation concerning leap years. The cumulative effect of this error over the course of several centuries caused various events to take place in the wrong season. It also created problems when determining the date of Easter. Thus the Pope Gregory the 13th introduced a revised calendar in 1582. In addition to solving the issue with leap years, I mean, I didn't do research on leap years. I just think that it's messed up that if somebody's born on February 29th, their birthday disappears for 4 years. I feel bad for them. So, moving on. In addition to solving the issue with leap years, the Gregorian calendar restored January 1st as the start of the new year. While Italy, France, and Spain were among the countries that immediately accepted the new calendar, Protestant and Orthodox nations were slow to adopt it. Great Britain and its American colonies, that's us, did not begin following the Gregorian calendar until 1752. Before then, they celebrated New Year's Day on, drumroll, March 25th. Spring. When we're getting into spring. Now, even though timing and months changed, March has retained its legacy as a month of renewal and growth. And spring is still celebrated as a time of new beginnings in many cultures today. The historical tie makes the idea of starting a new year or setting personal goals in spring more natural and fitting. In the springtime, there's more sunlight, warmer days. Days are a little longer feeling, and you have a natural drive to start fresh, right? That's why we get that urge to purge our homes and do spring cleaning, and why we have the energy to do it. Because we're no longer a bunch of exhausted popsicles. And we're rearing to go, right? So I know a lot of you can relate to that, or it's just you can feel you want to be ready for spring. You want to do the spring cleaning and you want to get ready to go. Take those walks, those bike rides, all of those things outside. But right now, for a lot of us, it's dark and it's cold. And today it was very cold and windy here. So did we take our walk today? No, we did not. But in the spring, it's warm. It feels right. It feels good to be outside, exerting that energy that we've had saved up. So, doesn't it make sense why we're all kind of meh and bleh at January, setting these high expectations for ourselves? That, like, just because we're told that's when we're supposed to just start anew. For me, at least, it's always felt unnatural to have resolutions right after the holidays. You're still so tired. Plus, I'm rebellious by nature, so I like to go against the man. Not like the man upstairs, but, the man or the government, whatever you want to call it. So, I am, after all, a conspiracy theorist at heart. I tend to question anything they say or recommend. Again, that is why I don't get into politics and government on here, because yes. I'm not going to say too much about that, because I promised myself we would keep this as a safe space. But I do question what I'm being told and what is being recommended to me by people that seem to benefit more from those things than I do or my family, if that makes sense. So, and don't even get me started on daylight savings time. That whole thing that I read about that last year, and it made me very upset that is still a thing. Hopefully that changes at some point. I don't know. But my whole point here is, if you've always wondered why it hasn't felt right or natural to set those New Year's resolutions as soon as the ball drops at midnight, there are actually reasons for you feeling that way. So ease up on yourself. Don't feel pressured or guilty. It is literally just your body listening to itself and to nature. So, but that's not to say don't set any goals. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying to literally hibernate like a bear until March. Not saying that. But maybe set some smaller, more obtainable goals. Build up to that bigger goal. Give yourself grace, not crazy hard deadlines where if you don't hit them or meet them, it's considered a total failure to yourself. Because you know what happens when you decide to make those extreme changes? Life is what happens. And after a season filled with hustle and bustle and chaos, life will sometimes, a lot of times, come in and go, yeah, that's going to be a no from me, dog, and screw up your plans, completely throw you off track, and you're just like, what the heck? It increases the chances of you quitting and giving up before you've even really gotten started. Again, I'm not saying that big resolutions aren't doable. Plenty of people have succeeded when they've created resolutions. And I'm not saying that they're not sustainable, because some people are able to achieve them. We know those annoying people that are able to achieve those. We all know that there's those overachievers that are like, yeah, goal, did, boom, 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 boom. And you're just trying to get off the couch, but you're cold and you don't want to move. We all know those people. That is their life. That is not your life. We are not in competition with those people. What I'm saying, though, is for the love of Pete, know yourself well enough and be honest with yourself enough to know if the big goals you're setting are actually right for you at the time, or if it's more realistic and feasible for you to make smaller goals, smaller resolutions to ultimately get you to where you want to be. And because we're in a time, so that being said, like I said, making those smaller goals, if you feel like those big resolutions that you have in your brain, that when you're talking with friends or family, getting all pumped up about it, and then reality hits and you're like, ugh. And part of you says, well, just don't do it. It's too big. Don't do it. Instead of that, there are different ways to go about it, right? Smaller steps. But because we are in the world, and today's world that we are in, everything has to have a name. So there were fitness and wellness influencers that have caught on to the fact that New Year's resolutions can be hard to achieve. Duh. And so in an attempt to reframe the thinking around New Year's goal setting, a new wellness trend has popped up online. It's called the Winter Arc. It's basically just doing what I've said to do, taking the smaller, slower steps, but they threw a name on it. So it's a goal-setting challenge that was created. So there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach or standard definition for many of those trying the trend. The Winter Arc involves utilizing the cold, dark, earlier months of winter to turn inward and get a jump start on their goals, with the intent of having them in place by the time January 1st rolls around. The Winter Arc doesn't have a strict or universal time frame, but the trend typically aligns with using the winter months as a period of slower paced growth. See, slow, typically from late fall to winter. Many who adopt the Winter Arc set their sights on spring as a natural deadline, which I think that's fair. And it doesn't even, you have to set the deadline that's right for you. It doesn't have to be spring. It could be summer. It doesn't have to be, you have to truly do what's right for you and not let anybody pressure you to do something you feel really isn't right and isn't going to be sustainable for you, because you know your life better than anybody else, and you know what's going to work for you better than anybody else. So this whole thing ties into the idea that with its longer days and renewed energy, spring is a more fitting time for larger action-oriented goals or new beginnings. So start coming up with like a plan, take those small steps, and then have those goals set for spring or summer. So if you want to try the Winter Arc movement, or whatever you want to name it, I'm not completely a fan of that name, but that's what the cool kids call it. If you, since it embraces winter as a season for rest and gradual self-improvement, If you want to give it a try as an alternative to the crazy, hardcore, balls to the wall New Year's resolutions we've been pressured to do for years, like I said a million times, start small. Start with like meaningful goals, like daily rituals, journaling if you want to, mindfulness, meditation if you want to, things like that. Whatever your ultimate goal is, break it down into smaller bits. So, for instance, if you're wanting to improve your fitness, but no, going to the gym isn't feasible. Like for me, we've got a gym down the street. It's not that far, but do we want to pay for that gym? No. Do I want to go to that gym? No. No, I don't. So it's not feasible. Would I like to use the heavier weights or whatever equipment they have? Sure. But it's not practical for me to do that. It's not gonna happen. So and if you are in the same boat, or if you plan on going to the gym at some point, but you feel like right now is just not a good time because, like I said, it is winter, it is cold. Thinking about going out at 5 o'clock in the morning in the cold to a gym, do you really think that that's going to be something that you can do however many days a week and keep that up? Or do you think it's more likely that you'll be able to keep up a simple routine at home? And there are bodyweight workouts. Bodyweight, that's how I started when I was like 17 or 18. I started just doing Windsor Pilates DVDs. And 8-minute abs, 8-minute buns, 8-minute arms and legs with the guy with the super short shorts, and he had a girl and a guy on the side, and you did 8-minute or 6-minute, either way. But they were short workouts. That's how I started. I just did those consistently every night before bed. I don't care what article says, don't work out before bed. Don't do this. Work out whatever time works for you. Whatever time. If it's right before bed and you still sleep just fine, then do that. Don't listen to any article or influencer or whatever that tells you that what you're doing that has worked for you is wrong. Because they don't know you and they don't know what works for your life. So, like I said though, I started off doing body weight workouts and they worked amazing for me. And then there are tons of videos on YouTube, tons of free workouts that you could do to get you started with that. Couple days a week, 1 day a week even, if you want to, or a couple of days a week. I go through the company that used to be known as Beachbody. It's now just called Body. They have tons of workout programs that are amazing. You can use weights, there's yoga, there's Pilates, all sorts of different ones that you can use. However many, they've got short workouts, long workouts, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, anything that you could possibly want, they offer it. I've been using their products and workouts for 20 years now. So that's something you can do. Or if you just want to move more and figure out a time of day that you can stay consistent with and go on a walk, just figure out a day, 1 day a week or a few times. Whatever you think that you can stay consistent with, just be reasonable with yourself. Be realistic. Start slowly. You may have to take the time to figure out a plan. It may take a little bit longer than just being I'm just going to go sign up at the gym and go 6 days a week. It may take a little bit more of your time to break it down, but you have a higher chance of being more consistent with that breakdown than with going all crazy at the gym 6 days a week for just 1 week and then quitting, right? So that is my suggestion for fitness. We are starting our walks again with my family. I know this is the first week. My husband's doing a water fast. So I'm kind of making sure I give him grace if he's not up for it, giving myself grace because of other things going on. But we went on a walk yesterday. We're planning on doing one tomorrow. We know the latest time that we can go, the other things that are going on in our lives right now. But that is our plan that we all agree on. So that is what we are going to continue to do. Will things come up? Yes, things inevitably happen where we may not be able to do it one week, but the next week you just get right back on that horse, right? It just, because it's something that you've sketched out, you've made the plan for it, it's not too crazy or too big of a step to take. It's just a small little thing that you can do to improve your well-being. Then if you are trying to spend less money, my husband, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny because, again, life. My husband said, okay, we have to stop spending money. That's what, I'm pretty sure that's what every husband in all the land is saying to every wife, or vice versa after Christmas. We need to stop spending money. But life, as you know, will continue to create things that you need to buy and spend money on. So we just have to remember not to panic. For us, what has truly helped us a lot is setting a grocery budget and then planning. Well, I'll be real transparent. We set a grocery budget, but I went over it a ton for like a year. I did really good for a long time. Inflation happened and all that crap. But I did really well. And then I did really, really bad for a while. And that was because we didn't have a plan for meals. Now, I'm not saying like meal prepping, or it's just simply having planned meals for the week. So my husband and I, before I go grocery shopping, we stand at our calendar on our kitchen fridge and we write down what meals we're going to do for the next week. Then I buy the ingredients for those meals. Obviously, we get snacks for the kids, snacks for my husband, etc., and all of that standard, usual stuff. But having that plan helps us save money, because you're not just buying random ingredients and hoping they all come together. You actually know that you need this side for this meal because it's written down on your calendar. And it makes it less stressful. You're not trying to figure out at 6 o'clock at night what to have for dinner. You already know, and you're already preparing it by 6. Sometimes it's not 6, and sometimes dinner doesn't get on the table until 8 o'clock. Sometimes, like last night, it happens. But we had leftovers tonight, so it worked out great. But that was written on the calendar, right? I made chicken enchiladas last night, knowing that they would be tonight's dinner as a leftover, and it worked out perfect. So that is definitely something I highly recommend. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it gets annoying trying to figure it out, but it is a lot less stressful to take the 10 minutes to figure that out with your spouse and your family than to try and figure out a meal the night of when you've got sports and all these other things going on. And it saves you money because you're buying just for those specific meals. So, have I gone over before? Yes. Not as often though. There are always going to be extra things sometimes that pop up. Extra snacks, extra drinks, extra whatever. We run out of toilet paper and paper towels at the same time. Oh, that irks me so much. I hate it because that's $40 I'm spending at Costco right off the bat on just 2 things. Oh, so I try and spread those things out if I can. But it happens. Sometimes you're spending way more than anticipated, but then other weeks you spend way less. It just happens. But you have that baseline. You have those meals already planned. Your stress level goes down because that's already taken care of. That has truly helped us a lot. But if you're thinking to yourself, okay, the thought of trying to sit with my spouse and plan out 7 dinners right now, Lauren, I don't have it in me. I don't got the power. If you think that's too much, start with just one or two. Whatever you think is going to work out for you, start with that. And then, okay, so think about your favorite meals that you guys always have. Then figure out those days. But if it still seems like a hard task, then just start with the one day. Then gradually go to more days. And then if you get to 7, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Because you'll still save money and it'll still be less stressful for you because you'll have at least some of your evening dinners planned. You'll still have something planned. You'll still be buying for just those meals. And you'll save time, you'll save money, and it'll be less stress for you. It's okay to start small, guys. Nobody's asking you to go right to somebody else's goal. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying immediately go to 7 days. Start where it works best for you. And if sometimes you falter and it doesn't work out, that is okay. We've had some weeks where we've been too busy to have that conversation. It happens. You just do your best. And that's okay. Do the best you can where you're at. And guys, I said it a lot. Give yourself some grace. But in the end, everyone is going to do what they're going to do. I am simply just here to make sure you guys aren't so hard on yourselves, that you truly know that it's okay to not set major goals right after a crazy holiday season. It's perfectly okay to take the teeny tiny steps or slightly bigger steps, wee steps, however you want to call your steps. It's okay to take those and not take massive leaps. Plus, and I wanted to explain also the point. I did this episode to help you guys realize why it may have always felt so strange to you to have us start those resolutions during winter or January, because January didn't even used to exist at all. And the new year didn't even start until the spring. For me at least, it makes me feel less crazy. It makes me feel less lazy for never feeling right about it. And about January equaling new year, new me. Gag me. Gag me with a spoon, as I used to say back in my day. But it never felt right, but I never quite understood. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I truly feel like we are continuously being taught and trained to not trust our instincts. It goes back a lot of years. Like, look how far back, like all the way to before Julius Caesar. It was a long time ago. They changed it because they changed the months. They added to it. They changed the calendar. That's why December doesn't make sense, because it's the 12th month, but it used to, that's why it's Dec, because it was 10. They just changed things because it worked better for them. And I think we need to keep that in mind. If you're being told something by somebody higher up, government or whatever, and you go, and then you see like 1,000 different articles or media or whoever that agree with that stuff, and you're still like, go with the Don't go with what you're reading or seeing. Go with that feeling, because 99.99999% of the time, you're gonna be right, not them. I would dare say like 100% of the time, you're gonna be right, versus whoever else is telling you to go against your instincts. So all of that to say, please give yourself time, give yourself grace, let your body recover from the holiday season. Let your mind recover from the holiday season. It is okay to start slowly and gradually increase if you want to. Whatever pace you feel is best for you that you can keep up and that you can stay consistent with. Nobody else. This is not a competition with anybody else. We will not compare ourselves anymore. I'm talking to myself as well. We will not compare ourselves anymore to anybody else. This is your life. You know what's best for you. In your heart of hearts, even with all the chitter chatter and the negative thoughts that may be going through your head that you have to train your body and your mind not to listen to, you know in your heart of hearts what is right for you. You know that you've come such a long way over the years. You are such a better person than you were years ago, last year even. You've learned so much. You've come so far. So please give yourself the pat on the back, the nap, the break, whatever you need to get yourself feeling renewed and ready for the spring, to get that spring in your step and get things going when you're ready. No one in this world can be like, hey, can tell you January 1st is when you become a different you. That's why it doesn't work. You have to do it on your own time with your own steps and what works for you. So please remember that. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I just want to say, again, listen to your instincts. If you have big dreams and goals for 2025, start gradually and build them up. Be kind to yourself and just remind yourself how far you've already come. You are doing amazing, and you are amazing. Guys, you are amazing. Please know that. This crazy world we live in, all the stuff happening, everything going on, you are still here, and you are so loved, and you are doing amazing. You're amazing. So I will see you guys on Monday with our first Menagerie Monday of 2025. Where I am talking about reboots. It's going to be a series. I'm only going to do 2 reboot shows this time around. So to keep it short and not have it be too long. And then I'll share a pretty cool story about how that episode even came to be. I think it's pretty wild. And I think it's a really good story that maybe will help you guys as well with learning, again, to trust yourself and to let things go and know that what's meant for you will happen. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in a few days. Bye, guys.